Hello again, this is pecktec, and I was requested to do a video on maintenance for the Fluval Edge, especially the Fluval Edge 12 gallon. This request comes from Rumsey Gerard, and he says, he or she, I have no idea, would you be so kind as to make a maintenance video on this particular tank? This tank is difficult to clean, including filter cleaning, and being so tall and lack of ease of access makes it super difficult to clean. Maybe you could explain how often and how to take care of it, including substrate cleaning. Thanks in advance. Well, I'll tell you what. Normally when I clean my aquariums, and by that I just basically mean water changes. I don't do a great deal of cleaning. I do change the filters and that sort of thing. But there's a reason all these plants are in there. And the plants take care of the substrate. I never vacuum the substrate, ever. There have been times when it seems like there's some a little too much dirt or something I don't like, or maybe I've overfed accidentally. I've had a couple of accidents over the years, and I've gotten in the substrate and sort of tightened it up a little bit. But for the most part, I never ever clean it, and the reason is the roots of these plants go down into the substrate. They absorb all those things, and they turn them into fertilizer for the plants, and that's part of keeping this natural cycle going. The more of that you have, the less maintenance you really have to do on your aquarium. That being said, there are a few things I do to keep this thing looking nice, and I'm going to show you today. Now, normally, when I had only 3 or 4 aquariums, I would use this, which is just a typical water changer that you get from PetSmart or some other pet store, and that's what I'll be using today to sort of demonstrate, how to do this. Now that I've got upwards of 13 aquariums, I tend to use my Python water changer. It makes it a lot simpler and a lot easier to do lots and lots of aquariums. So, especially since I do them all in one day. So I'll pretty much do them all at once. I'll go through the entire house and clean them all out. So for this one aquarium, I left this one out of the maintenance cycle this week just to show you this video. And let's get started. Okay, this usually begins with removing the lid and kind of seeing where we're at. Take a look and make sure the flow of the water is doing okay, and make sure everything seems normal. I do recommend you do this about once a day. Usually as you feed the fish, just notice, make sure the water's flowing the way it should be, and that everything's in good shape. And now I'm going to cut the power to everything but the light. As you can see, the water level's gone down a little bit. I'm starting to get some bubbles in here. Sometimes it'll even get down, where the whole top of the glass is air. It just depends on how much evaporation. Usually in the wintertime, there's a lot of evaporation. You can top it off if you want to once in a while, but sometimes I'll just let it go down and I'll just fill it back up. You can do almost no maintenance in here with the water level, up to here. So you definitely need to drain it out a little bit before you do anything else. So let's start there. Now, it's probably safe to assume that most of you have done this at least once in your aquarium careers, but let's just pretend like you're brand new and you've never done a water change this way. I'm just going to use a regular milk jug, stick one end of the hose in here. What I do is I take, let's say, sometimes I don't always pay attention. I'm sitting there trying to keep fish out of the hose, so what I'll do is I usually hold it in place with my thumb. And when I feel water on my thumb, then I know that this thing is full. It's probably a better idea just to keep an eye on it, but I just thought I'd throw you that tip in there just to kind of show you. Alright, the way these work, they have a little valve inside, right? So you just take it and you pump it like this, and eventually the water will start flowing through. I generally change 20% of the water, and see, 20% of that, this is around 5 gallons. So I'll actually have to do this gallon jug a couple of times. I have a bucket, but I've actually got some dirt and some other things in there for another project that's going on. And I'm not going to use it today. I'm just going to use this gallon jug. But it'll be good enough for demonstration purposes. And a gallon out of here will be more than enough to reach in here and do some things. Okay, so I ended up taking 2 gallons of water out. I poured the last gallon in some household plants. That's also something else that you can do with your wastewater. Plants can use those. What I'm going to do with this water is I'm going to use it to clean the filter. You start by pulling this out here, and let's just kind of let it drain just a little bit. I usually start just by getting it into here so don't make a big mess. You can remove the charcoal, remove the biological, ceramic stuff, and the sponge. If you got a paper towel or something, you can wipe this down. This tends to get kind of dirty. Alright, let's just kind of wipe this out, clean it up a little bit. You don't have to do this every time. In fact, I clean out the filters probably once a month. I have gotten busy and let it go a couple of months before. Doesn't really hurt anything. You don't want to let it go too long. It can build up some toxicity in there and not be very healthy for your fish. And this part isn't essential either. It's just, why not, you know. I've got it out. I got a paper towel in hand. Let's get it a little bit clean. Alright. Once you clean apart, it just set it aside usually. Alright, so the charcoal at this point is pretty useless. It's run its course, and I don't think I'm going to be adding any more charcoal today, so I'm just going to leave this out. I'm going to toss this and get rid of it. I've actually heard some interesting things online that say the charcoal can inhibit plant growth. So I don't use it that often anyway. I bought a couple of packs when I first got this aquarium, and I've just been running it to help polish up the water. It really hasn't served any other purpose. The next part is we got to clean the really nasty stuff, and that's this. So what I do is I just take some aquarium water. It's important that you don't use chlorinated water, especially on your biological. Now, you don't have to clean this. In fact, a lot of times, unless it started to look this bad, it's been a long time since I've done anything with this one. But when it's getting really, really nasty, you can see it coming out all over the place. The pores get clogged. The pores are what really gets the biological media. You know, where the biological beneficial bacteria settles in the little pores and stuff. I don't want it to be all clogged with junk, so we'll probably rinse that out. It's important to only use aquarium water. You can use dechlorinated water, but you should let it sit. This is the part that you don't want to mess up. The sponge, in theory, you could probably wash it out in the sink, pour a bunch of dechlorinator on it, let it sit for a few minutes, or if you've got 2 of these, you could simply replace the sponge. But I'm going to show you this technique, which is just take some of the water you just drained out, pour it in a small container, and you just squeeze it out. And then you drink this. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, so pour the water out. I'm just going to give it another round or 2 here. Really dirty. These things start out white. It'll never be white again. But you can start to see when it's starting to get clean. Alright, I think maybe one more try here. You can also see the water looks like dirty water, but not like the black sludge of doom, so it must be getting there. Alright, that's pretty clean. It's clean enough. Do a little dip with the biological stuff. Some of that nasty off. It comes off really easy, all this ceramic. Alright, that's ready. Yeah, don't forget all the stuff that you're pulling off of these things. Terrific plant food. Terrific plant food. Alright, so reassemble the filter with the sponge, the biological. Normally after I run through my process with the charcoal, I'll just stick another one of these bags of biological in. It's very handy in case you're going to start another aquarium, which tends to happen in my place quite a bit. And we'll just stick it back in the filter chamber. Alright, so now that I've drained some of the water out, I've cleaned the filter, which is actually the most difficult part of this whole thing. So I'm going to go in, and let's say you need to scrape some algae. Well, there's a couple of different options. One is one of these tiny little scrapers, which works okay. You can kind of get your arm in there and clean the glass. It is not the easiest thing in the world because it is sort of an awkward but you can do it. I keep my aquarium out of direct sunlight, especially this one. This one I've been particularly careful about keeping it out of direct sunlight. I really don't want algae issues. And I've only had to scrape out the glass. I mean, really clean the glass. I'm just kind of showing you how it works, but I've only really had to clean this glass maybe 3 times. And 2 of those times were early in the beginning, just after I first set it up. So, hasn't been a big issue for me. Alright, the other option, of course, is to use one of the magnetic magnetic cleaners. I've had a couple of comments about this because you can get gravel lodged in between here. Like if you're down here cleaning, some gravel could get in there, and then you could just scrape up your tank and really put a lot of scratches all over. It's particularly a problem for acrylic tanks, not so much for a glass tank, but can still be a problem. This is a great way to kind of quickly do a touch-up on an aquarium. I mainly have this here. I've had this stuck in here for a while, and it's mainly there to take the bubbles off of off the top and work them into there. I haven't needed to clean the glass too much in here. That's another advantage. I've heard a lot of people talking about this LED light and how it's so directional and just goes down the middle and stuff. But you know, the more that light that stays off this front pane of glass, the less work you're going to have to do cleaning algae. So just put plants in the middle to grow up towards the center. It's got plenty enough light. This Anubis has just gone nuts in here. I mean, it was really huge. If you saw the video where I installed this, it was really huge to begin with, but I've cut this down and sent it to friends and given it away and done all kinds of things. So this plant's been cut up like 4 times, and it just goes and goes and goes. Finish this up real quick. Now, because reaching into this aquarium displaces the water quite a bit, you can't see very well. But if this were up at the top, this would instantly come over and overflow. I've only accidentally done this once because I'm really used to just kind of reaching in my aquarium whenever I want. But it's very important to drain this before you do anything at all. And this is the time when you need to go in and trim your plants. Do anything else. Like I said, I never vacuum the bottom. If you're not keeping plants in your aquarium, well, you really should try. There's almost no reason not to keep natural plants if you've already got a tank with a decent light on it. Because with some light, maybe a little bit of fertilizer, I want to show you what I do with that in just a second, you can grow plants. And it's not difficult. There are plants that are more difficult than others. These are very easy. And if you need to vacuum the bottom, of course you can. What I would recommend is to take out a portion of water so you don't displace it, and then really reach in there and get in there and vacuum the bottom. But really, my biggest recommendation is just go with real plants, especially if you've already got the tank with the light. The light's really the most important part of your planting regime. I mean, there's fertilizers, there's dirt, there's sand, but I've grown plants in rocks, like just regular gravel, aquarium gravel, nothing special to it. I've grown it in, in sand and all kinds of different substrates. So I put special substrates down, but you don't have to. You don't have to. Just keep it simple. It's really a simple process. It's not meant to be complicated. A lot of people make it very complicated. They're asking me about putting CO2 in here. No, I don't put CO2 in every tank. In fact, I don't have CO2 in any of my tanks right now. So, although I'm going to try that, I have complete respect for the people that do. You don't have to. You don't have to. So, anyway, moving on. Alright, so water's out, and I've filled up a jug. I took the temperature of the water, make sure it's very similar to the temperature that's inside of here, within a degree or two. And it's time to put the water back in. But before I do, I'm going to use a little bit of dechlorinator, and today I'm using Prime. I recommend this. This is a great brand. And it just takes a couple of drops. Now this stuff pretty much works instantly. I think it's within just a couple of seconds. It'll bind the chlorine and the chloramines and stuff and make it safe. The other thing that you're going to need to do is, well, if you want to anyway, I add this. It's called Flourish Iron, and or just Flourish. It is a terrific iron supplement. It kind of gives the plants a little bit of extra. This costs maybe a little bit more than some others, and I only put in just a very small amount. I mean, very, not even a capful here. It's like very small amount. It's a small aquarium. But even in the 55 here behind it, I'll maybe do a capful per water change. So, and that's it. No magic. Just a little bit of this. It does make a difference. It does make it, you don't have to use it, but it does make a difference, okay? And then just pour the water back in. Alright, like I said, we did 2 gallons today, so here's gallon number 2. A couple of drops Prime in here. Now you'll notice I'm not adding the Flourish again. I did all of this I needed to add on the first one. Just pour it in. And notice where the water level is here. This is just about right. This might actually be a little too much, but I've got a few bubbles to clear out, so maybe not. This has a plastic coating, so it can dip into the water just a little bit. I don't recommend it, though. You really don't want water inside of here or anything. But that's, if you get right to there, that's right before the water kind of gets to the light. See, it's just right there. Get the extra bubbles out. My floor is not exactly even, so I always end up with a big bubble on the side of here. Just kind of work it out this way. It can be frustrating keeping the bubbles off the top of this aquarium. I try not to fuss with it too much. Be too picky about it. Because it's not worth it. Then I usually do a little toweling off, make sure it's nice and dry up here. Accumulated food and water drops and stuff can just add those ugly little white marks all over. So I'll try to keep it cleaned off as much as possible. And slide this back around over here out of the way. Now, before I start the power to the pump, you have to prime it, which basically just means adding a little bit of water here. And I think what I'm going to do, since I've used all this, is I'm going to grab some water out of another tank. It's definitely one handy thing about having a lot of aquariums. There's always some place to get some water. So I'm going to add it into this chamber here on the side. Doesn't take much, just a little bit. Now I'll usually do this until I see it start to kind of pour over or just come very close to pouring over. Then it's ready to go. I'll put the lid back on. Make sure the flow is set to full. Now I've turned the water back on. And what we're going to see is the water will slowly kind of make its way up through here. And eventually, the suction will pull the water up and it'll just start flowing again. It usually takes just a minute or two, but that's why we prime the pump. If you didn't do this, it would just sit there and not do anything. So it's really important to be sure and add a little bit of water back inside of here to kind of get the flow going again. You'll see once the bubbles are out, it's nice and quiet again. Alright. Well, that's maintenance in a nutshell. Thank you for helping me out with this water change today. Okay, well that's about it. Thanks for hanging out with me and doing a water change. Now I'm sorry that this ended up being like, hey, this is how you do a water change video, but maybe it can help you or somebody else. And of course this was a viewer request and I'm always happy to do those. I haven't had a tremendous amount of requests, and some of the ones I've gotten, you know, we make one about betas. Sure, you know, I haven't done any species specific videos, mostly because you know, what I know is just kind of this acquired knowledge out of just lots of different books and things like that, and sometimes it's hard to pull on. I think I've forgotten as much as I've learned. So but I'd be happy to do give me some good ideas, and I'll make a video about it. Now, while we're on the subject of comments, how do you like the new YouTube comment structure, like with the Google Plus integration? Well, I don't think anyone does. I'm having a little trouble answering some of the comments and some of the questions that I got. And in fact, someone posted a question about this aquarium saying, hey, what kind of heater is this? This is a Fluval E-Series heater. You see trapped behind there somewhere. But I can't reply to that comment for some reason. So it's there's a couple of problems like that. Some I have been able to reply to. I don't know if the Google Plus account is locked up where it doesn't want you to won't let you make comments about some of the things, but it's some of them have the little open bar where I can make a comment, and some of them don't, where I can't even answer. So I'm not sure what's the deal with that. So just so you know, you can also find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter, and I'd be happy to answer your questions there best I can. So until next time, see you later.